So on top of generic signs that Tesla could look for to see if a driver is unconscious or distressed or tired, the car could actually get to know the person and then detect if that person is looking, acting, or feeling different than normal and give those signs more specifically when they're actually needed instead of having false positives or false negatives. Detecting if a driver is incapacitated or needs help, if you actually have a self-driving car, actually just driving the person to the closest medical center. So a pretty interesting patent from Tesla has popped up, which shows us some interesting features that may be coming to our vehicles in the future. The title of this patent is Personalization System and Method for a Vehicle Based on Spatial Locations of Occupants' Body Portions. Now let's start off with a few disclaimers here. Just because this stuff is put into a patent doesn't mean it's ever actually going to come to a vehicle, or it could be a really long time. Does anybody else remember the laser windshield wipers that Tesla patented? Yeah, that was a while ago, and we still don't know exactly why they patented it or if it's ever going to come to vehicles. Sometimes companies do this just to protect ideas and have a handle on it, but never actually go through with implementing these ideas into their cars. And then the other thing I want to mention, because I'm sure there will be a ton of comments about it, privacy issues, and you're not wrong. I actually kind of agree with you, but if you use a smartphone, you have cameras pointed at you and around you at all times. So if you don't like that idea, you should probably either tape up those cameras on your smartphone or don't use it anymore. A lot of people I've heard don't like that the car has a camera facing you. This is becoming more and more common in cars. And again, I get it. I get what people are saying. But for me personally, it's something I'm willing to kind of sacrifice in order to get the features that it provides. Namely, today, that's full self-driving beta. You need your cabin camera able to see the cabin for everything to function. And if you try to cover that, you actually can't use full self-driving beta. So for me, I leave it uncovered. And for me, again, it's kind of worth that trade-off. But that's a personal decision. And if you don't like this, then it's not the car for you. So Tesla is already using the interior cabin camera in limited capacity right now for things like driver monitoring. If you look down for too long or pick up your cell phone, the car will beep at you and tell you to pay attention while you're using Tesla's full self-driving features. The camera can also record things in a crash. If you opt into this, you have to opt in for that to happen. Tesla also recently implemented a drowsiness detection, which is still rolling out to cars, where if the car detects you are not feeling good or you're drowsy or something like that, it will warn you and say, hey, maybe you should take a break. This was detected. Now this patent expands on that and brings a lot of potential features, and I actually thought of some things myself I thought would be interesting to do with this. Some of them are pretty simple and seem like they could be done relatively easily right away. Others are a lot more far-fetched and have to do with robo-taxis and things like that, so maybe a lot more far off. So I kind of split this into a couple categories. One, I think things that are easily possible today. Tesla could kind of implement this very soon if they wanted to. And then number two is things that I think are probably a little farther in the future or a little harder or would need the proper sign-off or regulations in place to be implemented. So right now, Tesla already knows who is getting in the car and actually who's in the driver's seat based off of the Bluetooth in your phone. If you have a profile set up in the car and you have your phone on you with Bluetooth on, which you probably do, it can tell, oh, this is the person coming up. I'm going to set up the seat, and I know these were their settings for lane changes and these were their settings for HVAC and different things, and it'll get all of that ready for you. It's not the most accurate, but yes, it can also tell who is getting into the driver's seat and should set that up for you. For my wife and I find this works like 99% of the time. It gets who's in the driver's seat correct. It's very cool. So some additional features that are mentioned in this patent that I think are pretty easy and Tesla could implement soon is capturing images or videos for occupant identification. So on top of that Bluetooth identification, having your phone on you, it can just see you. A lot of things, your phone can do this. If you have an iPhone, it takes like super detailed scans of your face. Android phones have face unlock, Windows computers have face unlock. I don't know if Macs have it or not, but a lot of cameras already do this today. So pretty simple, and I think Tesla could implement this very quickly. Tesla could then use this data to match occupants with their driver or passenger profiles using the facial recognition and get everything set up for when they get into the car. They could then customize the environment of the car, meaning the seating position, the HVAC settings, even where the HVAC is blowing. Of course, that is all controlled on the screen for the most part, depending on which car you have. And this would all just be based off of those profiles. They could even then adjust the HVAC based on the occupant positioning. If somebody is sitting lower, maybe they're shorter or they're taller, they can move the fans around. Maybe in their profile, that person said, I hate when the air is blowing on my face, and the car, as they're fidgeting around, could move the vents so it's never blowing on their face, or vice versa. Somebody wants it on their face, the car could always be aiming for their face, which would be awesome. Making this more efficient then can cut down on the energy used to actually heat or cool the cabin if you can direct all of that energy in a smaller area. Tesla talks about directing audio outputs to optimize the listening experience for identified occupants. They could detect seating changes and update the system settings to make everything work with however the person is positioned. Tesla could also monitor driver metrics for basic indications of driver state, movement, presence, if they're conscious or not. And like I said earlier, this is already happening with the drowsiness detection. It has just been implemented. Now, some more advanced things that I think would be farther off in the future that Tesla is talking about using in this patent. Tesla talks about estimating the Z height of occupants' body portions for system adjustments, like the HVAC and the sound that we talked about before. And this would be detecting all kinds of different parts of the body. So something really important on top of that drowsiness detection would be detecting a driver's normal versus distress state through complex metrics like health parameters and behavioral analysis. So on top of generic signs that Tesla could look for to see if a driver is unconscious or distressed or tired, the car could actually get to know the person and then detect if that person is looking, acting, or feeling different than normal and give those signs more specifically when they're actually needed instead of having false positives or false negatives. Now, this next option is really cool, and it's something I've talked about in the past, and it is detecting if a driver is incapacitated or needs help, and then either number one, dialing emergency services and letting them know, but on top of that, if you actually have a self-driving car, actually just driving the person to the closest medical center. Now, of course, this seems very far off from now. The cars aren't self-driving, so you need that part of the equation, and the car can't detect all of these cool metrics that Tesla is talking about in this patent, but it is something that could come eventually. The patent talks about making sure the person actually needs help, so the car would detect, you're unconscious, and it would say, hey, do you need me to drive you somewhere? And if you respond no, then no, it won't. If you respond yes, it will, and if you don't respond at all, then it will proceed to drive you wherever you need to go. So this would be a great use of this system when all of these pieces eventually do come together. So there are some other ideas I thought of for this, some things I thought either just being funny or things that would actually be really useful. So imagine somebody gets in your car and tries to steal it. Maybe the car will let them drive initially, but a notification could be sent to your phone that says, hey, somebody's in the driver's seat, I don't recognize them. It could even send a picture and say, can this person drive your car? Is this person allowed to? Do I need to shut down? Do you want to limit the speed limit? Whatever it needs to do. On top of that, say you have kids that want to borrow your car, you could set it up so it detects that person is your kid and it could limit the speed limit, or it could not start driving after a certain time if you want them to not leave the house after 10 p.m. or something, and it sees the kid get in the driver's seat, nope, you can't drive. Or hey, if we're talking autonomous, what if the kid is out past their curfew and the car is not at the house? It will automatically route to the house the next time that kid gets into the car and take them home if they're past their curfew. I mean, there's so many crazy possibilities with this. If it detects young children, you could have a setting that whenever there's a young child in the car, any music played over the speakers will be censored. So anytime you play music, it won't have any swear words or any bad language in it because a minor is detected in the car. If the car gets to know you, what if, your face is getting a little puffy, a little chubby there, and you route to McDonald's or something, the car's like, no, we're not gonna do that. I see that, I feel that seat sensor, I see it in your face, you're gaining a little bit of weight. How about we, go over to the park and take a walk instead? It'd be so funny if your car like shaming you to lose some weight. And if it is monitoring your health, why would it wait until you go unconscious or have some kind of huge problem? The car could signal you and say, hey, I see, this or this metric, maybe you should talk to your doctor, or maybe you should get something checked out. Why not? It's looking at you all the time you're driving anyway. It might as well give you some heads up, some alerts that you could take action on yourself if you choose. The car could automatically boot up karaoke mode. Let's say it sees you're singing and it just puts the lyrics on the screen for you. Here you go. You can, look at the lyrics as you're singing that song, or it could just shame you on the clothes you're wearing because you picked out a terrible outfit. That would be pretty hilarious. But anyway, this kind of stuff is really cool. Tesla has another patent about self-driving stuff. Let me know if you're interested in that one. I've been kind of looking at it, but it's a little more complex and I didn't want to get anything wrong, so I didn't really talk about that here. I would like to hear other ideas you would have for this in-cabin camera, because I think there's a lot that you could do with this if Tesla implements this correctly. It could be very cool. So I'm interested in hearing your ideas. If you enjoyed this one, please hit like and get subscribed, and you will see me in the next video.